Maybe you have heard that your longest run should be 20 miles when you are training for a marathon. While this is a popular distance to build up to, the question you might be asking yourself, is this right for me? The answer really depends, because it might be right for some runners, but it might not be right for other runners. We are all individual when it comes to training for a marathon. You will easily be able to find pre-programmed marathon training plans online, but the thing that you have to remember, it is not targeted for a specific runner's needs. Things that are not accounted for in these pre-formatted marathon training plans are the recovery rate of a specific runner, the accurate training volume for that runner, the strengths and weaknesses of that specific runner, the time availability that that specific runner has, the physiological adaptations of that specific runner, if the runner is injury prone or is suffering from an injury, and these pre-formatted plans do not account for specific conflicts in a runner's schedule. Pre-formatted programs that you find online are not individualized for a runner's specific needs and are not as effective as they could be. Training programs need to be individually designed for a specific runner. These training programs are great to get ideas, but don't use them as is. All runners need to keep in mind that the more time spent running equates to more stress put on the body. Individuals who introduce high mileage days before their body is adapted put extra stress on their musculoskeletal system and are at an increased risk of injury. A fast runner may be able to train at a 7-minute per mile pace and be able to finish their 20-mile long run in 2 hours and 20 minutes, while another runner might run their 20-mile long run at a 10-minute pace and finish their long run in 3 hours and 20 minutes. Do you have any guesses on who might put more stress on their body? The slower runner is putting more stress on their body than the faster runner, because the slower runner is spending a longer amount of time on their feet running. When it comes to marathon training, the average suggested maximum distance that a runner should run usually suggests 20 miles. Now, for a slower runner, this might not be a recommended maximum distance that they should run. They should probably stick to 18 miles. Now, a faster runner might be able to get away with running longer than 20 miles. So they could go to 20 to 22 miles. But overall, this is not required. Now, if the faster runner is wanting to run over 22 miles and have their maximum long run to be 22 miles, they have to be at low risk of injury. So if they aren't an injury-prone runner, this is probably okay for them. Now, if they are very injury-prone, they probably should not go over 20 miles. While long runs are an important aspect of a marathon training plan, it doesn't necessarily mean that it is the most important part. So why is a long run not necessarily the most important part of a marathon training plan? Well, it is very important. You don't want to skip your long runs. A successful completion of a marathon training plan should focus on volume and not specifically a single long run. You consistently need to be running your other scheduled runs as well. Long runs put a lot of stress on the body, which requires more rest. This in return reduces the overall training volume. The exact distance of a runner's specific long run should be based on a runner's specific physiology and training adaptations. A well-constructed training plan must stress the body and allow for proper recovery. Intensity versus volume must be configured specifically to a runner's needs. We all know that long runs are an important aspect of a marathon training program, but we have to look at the big picture of everything else to get the best results. If a runner is in good to great aerobic condition, they will likely benefit from an increased amount of intensity as much or more as increased volume. So intensity and volume complement each other and make you a better runner, and you will be more prepared for the marathon. So let's talk about time versus distance. Some running coaches and experts advise that a runner should run by time versus distance. Dr. Jack Daniels, a very well-known, experienced running coach, advises that recreational runners that are non-elite run no more than 2 hours and 30 minutes for their maximum long run. He believes because of the lack of adaptation in the body, from a musculoskeletal point of view, that running over 2 hours and 30 minutes would put way too much stress on the body and that it would not outweigh the risk of injury. Now, this is just one perspective from one running coach, and this doesn't mean that it is right for every runner because truly nothing is perfect. So this is just my opinion, and based off of my experience, is that I think a runner can run up to 3 hours, especially if they are not suffering from any injury and they're doing okay. They could go up to 3 hours. If you're a slower runner and you're thinking about running 20 miles, and if it's going to take you over 3 hours, you might want to stick to a 3-hour time limit for your long run. Now, if you're wanting to go by distance, you could go up to 18 miles if you're a slower runner. That would probably be fine, but you might want to think, if you are going based upon time, 3 hours is probably a good limit to stop. Now, if you were just adamant to get to that 20-mile run, just to say that you run up to 20 miles in your training, just be cautious and make sure there's not any injuries popping up. You just want to be cautious about it. But sometimes people do very well. It might take them over 3 hours to run their 20-mile run, but they just want to get that 20-mile in. If they're doing okay and there's no injuries popping up, I don't really see why you couldn't do it, but just be cautious and assess yourself regularly to make sure it is working right for you. The maximum time that you should run your long run should look at these factors to help you determine if that specific time or distance is right for you during your maximum long run. So one thing that you want to look at is your training history. So is this your first marathon, or have you ever completed this time or distance before? And you have experience behind you that you know that this training is going to work for you, this amount of time running or this distance is going to work with you without getting injured. That is one thing that you want to look at, your training history and your experience with that. That's going to help determine what plan of action would be best for you. Your comparison between your long run times is what you want to look at. You want to look at, are you getting faster each run, or are you slowing down too much? It's really taking a toll on your body. So if it is taking a toll on your body and you just keep getting slower each long run, you might want to scale it back a little bit on how much time you are on your feet and how much distance you are running for your maximum long run. So you just want to assess those factors to see if it is working for you. You want to kind of have an expectation of your estimated time that you are planning on finishing the marathon in. So if it's your first marathon, you might not know this, but based upon your training runs and what time you are finishing them in and the pace per mile that you are running, you can kind of get an idea of maybe when you might finish your first marathon. Or if you have already finished a marathon, you can go based off your last expected marathon time, figure out what pace you should be running your training runs in, and what pace you can actually increase, or what goals that you can shoot for your next marathon. Another thing that you want to look at when deciding what is best for you is your chance of injury. Do you have a history, a long list of getting injured? You definitely want to consider those factors when you are running your maximum long run. So if you are very prone to injury, I would suggest running the minimum amount of a long run that you can. So the Dr. Jack Daniels method of running 2 hours and 30 minutes might be better for you. You might be able to go up to 3 hours running with no problem, but you just kind of have to be careful. So those are the type of things that you have to look at. To sum it all up, a marathon training program should have a combination of aerobic conditioning, long runs, speed work, recovery runs, and recovery to give you the best results. It should be well-rounded and not just focus on long runs or a high amount of training volume. If you are struggling with the best way to train for a marathon, I do offer one-on-one virtual private running coaching services. I offer 3 types of running coaching packages. Option 1 is a running and cross-training package. So I will help you design a marathon training program that is right for you. I also will help you with the cross-training aspect of training for a marathon. So this would be the right strength training, exercises to do as a runner, and flexibility training. So you can help prevent injuries with flexibility. By focusing on flexibility, we'll have video demonstrations for strength training exercises and stretching exercises. So this would be my total package for this. And my next option is option 2, which is just the running coaching services. So I would only coach you on the aspects of training for a marathon. I wouldn't give you specific strength training and flexibility exercises to focus on. So this would just be running coaching only. I do offer an option 3, which is a custom marathon training plan. So this is just a one-time customized training plan that I create for you based upon your running needs. If interested in running coaching services, I have linked information down below in the description. It'll give you more information about each option that I offer, such as it will give you all the details of each package as well as the price options. So you can check that out in the link below. You can also get in contact with me by email if you are interested. It is shanna@shannafitness.com. You can also fill out my coaching interest form. It'll just ask you a series of questions so I can get a better picture of your running goals. And if you are on Instagram, you can DM me about my running coaching packages, and I would be happy to discuss with you about the packages in the DMs. So my Instagram handle is @marathontrainingmoms. Just kind of like my YouTube channel, the same handle. And make sure you watch the next video on your screen about 6 mental tips for long runs.